This presentation shows a timeline of the history of theater. First, we have Greek theater, which began around the 5th century BCE and originated in Athens, Greece. In the beginning, these plays were commonly known throughout religious festivals, but after the construction of amphitheaters in the 6th century, tragedies and comedies were brought to life outdoors. These amateur plays took place during the day so natural lighting could be used. Playwriting within this time was considered an important part of civic life. Thespis and Aeschylus were a few of the first actors to perform, and Aeschylus was later known for his work of the Eumenides. Next is Roman theater. This occurred in 240 BCE to about 476 and originated in ancient Rome. The ideas for this movement evolved from Greek theater, particularly in the comedy aspect. Daylight was also used for each performance. Violence, variety, spectacle, and paratheatricals such as chariot races and gladiator combats were the main focus. Livius Andronicus was well known for the work Achilles during this time. Medieval theater began in 5th century AD, slightly during but mostly after the fall of the Roman Empire. This played off of Roman theater's violent variety, spectacle, and paratheatrical characteristics, but also worked to regain sacred function that had been lost throughout the time of Roman theater. Gallicanus by Rosviva was a popular play during this movement. The next movement is the Italian Renaissance that occurred between the 14th and 16th century in central Italy. Audiences were now able to move indoors for a more intimate play setting, although this cut down the amount of people able to attend each performance. Toward the end of this movement, box, pit, and gallery arrangements became popular and remained in Europe and America up to the 19th century. Shakespeare stood out for his piece, The Merchant of Venice. Along with the Italian Renaissance was the English Renaissance from the 15th century to the 17th century in England. At this point, theater was becoming more professionalized, accepting donations and serving snacks and refreshments. The box, pit, and gallery arrangements were now separated by social classes, and the playhouses were typically filled with everyone except the highest class. The English Renaissance introduced the thrust theater setting, allowing for an even better intimate experience as the stage juts out into the audience on 3 sides. Shakespeare is also known for this movement as well. The French neoclassicism began in the 17th century from about 1630 to 1760 in France. The thrust setting seemed to be a hit with the audience, so it was soon transformed into the audience having the ability to be on stage with the actors. This allowed for ticket prices to be raised as it became more popular. Molière was a well-known playwright for his work, Tartuffe. Next is the English Restoration drama. It began in England during the late 17th and early 18th centuries. Originally, the Restoration period put theater into hiding, which in turn made theater a now secret place. As it was reintroduced to the public, it did so with a hint of technology, such as moving scenery and the proscenium arch. Samuel Pepys was famous for writing about his theater experience that later allowed historians to review and learn about theater from that time period. Oliver Goldsmith was the playwright for The Good-Natured Man during this movement. Romanticism is up next on the list. In the late 18th century, early 19th century, this movement developed as a reaction against the restriction of neoclassicism and the intellectualism of the Enlightenment. Subjectivity and emotion were emphasized, and due to this, the workings of Shakespeare were brought back into view. Danton's Death was a popular piece by George Buchner. Melodrama arose in the 19th century in Europe and America. Also known as music drama or the Romantic Age, this movement was growing out of the Industrial Revolution. Good versus evil was the theme, but the endings were always happy due to a form of tragedy with a touch of comedy. Poetic justice, stock characters, and escapism were main focuses with accompanying music in the background that emphasized these. As people began to crowd into cities, theater was a way to escape poor working and living conditions. Hall Crane was well known for his play, The Christian. In the 19th and 20th century, realism developed as a reaction to the escapism of melodrama to confront social ills of the industrialized society. It worked to bring real-life, everyday situations into theater. Ming Cho Lee with For the Moon Besieged and Scott Pask with Sweet Charity, Urinetown, and The Pillowman were two famous playwrights within this time. Postmodern drama is more familiar today. It began in the mid-20th century in Europe. It is similar to realism and also works to represent the truth and importance of multiple perspectives of theater. The goal is that the audience should believe what is in front of them without thinking too hard about it. Technology is further used to enhance a production of this time. Bertolt Brecht, being the playwright for Mahogany, recreated by Jonathan Miller, was popular during this movement. Overall, each of these movements run together and advance together to create a greater form of theater throughout different eras. Lastly, I included the citation page for this presentation.